people, that's, to me, would be the compromise of the purpose of the people who need to do that or want to do that. It gives them the option, but still coincides with us protecting when it is parked out there and for how long it is parked out there for. Does that make
One
sense?
day on
That,
either side.
what?
So that gives you one day on either side.
Right.
Yeah.
That does.
True on that.
So for 48 hours
In a consecutive 7-day period.
in a consecutive 7-day period, parked in front of your address or your home on your said property. I don't know how they'll word that, but,
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like, but
On property is totally different.
right, but, and I'm not sure how he word that, but to where it's stating to the fact that it has to be parked in front of the person who owns its home.
If you've got people that have family that comes in with a camper from out of town.
Then that has to be parked in front of their address if they're visiting that address.
But if they're
they
out
shouldn't
for
be,
a
they
week,
shouldn't be camping though in the street.
And you're not allowed to stay inside the camper in the street anyway, overnight.
No, but parking, I mean,
Yeah.
I
true,
had family in town
Yeah,
last year
I was gonna
hunting and we
Oh,
put
I see what you're
their
saying.
trailer, they pulled out in front of my neighbor's house. And I, of course, asked my neighbor first if
Right.
it was okay. But while they came to town, that's where we parked because, of course,
and that's
we've got
probably
vehicles.
7 days came in.
That might, that might be too.
Way to throw a wrench in there, thanks. No, I
7
appreciate
days, yeah,
it.
'cause-
Because I didn't think of that, thank you.
I didn't either till just now.
Yeah, 'cause the 7 days, that doesn't mean that includes anybody even that doesn't have a trailer. You know, Candace was saying she doesn't have a trailer, but if she has somebody come over to her house that does have a trailer, they're gonna park there even if they're, staying the night in her house.
I don't have a trailer or camper, but I do have a couple of vehicles. That they can all fit within my area.
As far as what you're saying, then I think, honestly, then they need to stay in an RV park. Because then if we're just gonna give it certain
It's a horse trailer.
days, that's an enclosed.
Exactly, but that's if a friend has a horse trailer because.
I know, that's why I'm saying if a friend's coming to your house, you're still responsible for who comes to your home. So,
But that's why I say, for the, it's not just the campers, because if it was a camper, yeah, they can stay at an RV park, but if it's like a horse trailer, because it's a rodeo time,
Mhm.
then, they bring the horse trailer, they park it there, and because they're just coming through town
right,
and park there for 3 or 4 days, they can't go anywhere else and they don't have anywhere to, sleep. I mean, they literally have to go to a hotel, but,
right,
if that was the case, but.
Seen some of them horse trailers, they're pretty nice.
they are.
So they are.
So a lot of them are nicer than my camper.
Some of them have sleepers, but
I hope some.
that's why,
fancy ones.
So thoughts on that then? Because you've run across that. I actually haven't.
This is a complex issue. That's why I turned back around to
I mean,
the way it
I
is.
feel like we could go down a rabbit hole with this discussion.
Oh, we
I
could.
think we are.
Either for a really long time.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're going on.
Over an hour.
I think that we could come up with all kinds of different scenarios of what's gonna work, what's not gonna work, but we also have to think about kind of bringing it back to, we're talking about the residents
Right,
in the town. Not every ordinance that's out there is going to cover X, Y, and Z in terms of all this other stuff that we're talking about. So I'm just wondering what the consensus is. Because we're kind of going round and round and round on the discussion, and in order to kind of, pull it back, because we could go down a rabbit hole all day long with this one. I mean, the whole time that I've been on the council, I think that this has been the most hot topic discussion, that I think that I've seen everybody at. And I think it just comes back down to making a choice, making a decision, and being good with the choice and the decision that we're making and moving forward with that, knowing that we're not going to be able to please everybody, but that we're diligently trying to. But I feel like we're going to continue to open up lots of cans of worms with this no matter what we do.
So for instance, if we keep it the way it is right now, for instance, 7 days in a row, up to 7 days,
In a
in a
30-day
30-day
period.
consecutive period. So people that don't have, like, maybe have friends or family members that are coming in, that helps them. People that have campers, that have trailers, they can go back into like breaking it down into a date here and a date there.
Yep.
And because that covers quite a few weekends, if they only take a day to load, unload when they get there, or before they unload afterwards. And
With that being said, though, I still
Even
think
the
it
one-
needs
even
at
the
least
ones-
go to 8 days, because if you do go every weekend, and we don't get to go that much as it is. So we do go, we're gonna go every weekend we can. So at some time during that summer, you're gonna be able to go every weekend during one of these months. And then you're going to not be able to do that 7 days.
true, because you're gonna have, you're gonna be over your days on that one in the consecutive days. And that, I don't know. It's goes down into how quickly do we want these moving? You're gonna have those people that are just gonna sit on it, but like, we can go on this all the time, and that's the kicker right there, is that 7 days.
I like the flexibility of the days rather than getting some elaborate languages.
Yeah. I would agree.
Because, 7 days, if I'm going to use 7 straight days, I'm going to use 7 Fridays and Mondays. It's still the same period of time.
I feel like
That
if
you
we
put in
get
there.
too detailed, then, like with the example that Janelle brought up,
Mhm.
what about family members, what about?
Right.
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z person. If we get too detailed, then we're not going to be able to cover every
Yeah.
single
Like, we can
situation.
play what ifs.
Right.
There's no scenario you can't play what if with. So, Mhm.
So if family shows up.
right. But my family wasn't camping there. They were staying in my house, but they came all the way across the country with their gear.
So you bring it to that, saying if the resident has somebody visiting and keep it there for so many days. So the next section, so when you look at a statute of ordinance, you have section A and section B, so you can find it if you want, or those coming out of town. Or has an option out there. Just take 8 days, 7 days, and you go back and forth. Somebody shows up at my house saying, wants to spend 8 days, I'm telling them to get a hotel. But, other people, residents, some may want that, so you can, if you choose, I'm not trying to define with people visiting, how long they can keep there.
I like just the days, because if somebody's visiting, that takes your days. That's your choice.
Yep, that's
You're
your
bringing them
choice.
in. You're utilizing your days.
Yeah.
I would still like to see the 8 days though, just because if you do get to go out, then there's no chance of you running into that last day. It's only adding one more day, but that could make a difference if you paying a fine or not. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's like to make everything kind of flow a little better. Adding one more day, either way, it's not gonna, being that it is a safety thing, one more day is not gonna, I don't think it's gonna, it's already 7 days. Kind of like that one gentleman says, it's like either have 0 days or, or have a number or whatever. It's like, if it's a safety thing, then it should be 0 days. Well, I think compromising, yeah, that would cover pretty much almost 2 full weekends. It's like if somebody wanted to come in, but that would cover everybody, including visitors probably too.
Right.
And like, Mr. Mayor said, it's like the fluctuation of, I might want to keep my trailer out there for 3 days in a row because I'm just too lazy. But I'm only going to go out camping, maybe once or twice a month. I don't go camping every weekend myself, but I'm going to keep it out, once or
But
twice.
giving
you
it
know,
that for
yeah.
that option, because
Just
I do know
because,
some
you
people
know,
that do go every
yeah.
weekend. I don't.
And there is,
I
and there
can't
is,
afford to, but
but
some
yeah.
people actually do go every weekend that they can.
Might have that rough trip where it might take you a couple days to clean up because it was a bad camping trip.
Yep,
Yes.
that's exactly it.
So
So,
we've all had those.
I mean, so, I mean, if we're gonna, you know, just throw in like the enclosed trailer in the 8 days, I'd be good with that.
I'm good with that too. Add the enclosed trailers in 8 days.
But-
In a 30-day period.
What about no slide outs?
I don't think, yeah, I think slide outs should remain in because I think
Yeah,
you
and
really
the slide
get,
out should be slide
no
out
matter
should
one-
not be coming
one way or the other, you're
on
gonna
the
either
road.
block the road or the
Right.
walkway.
We can put it all long enough to clean it, put it back in, and then we can be sitting out there.
Yeah, yeah, it means different. I think if you're popping it out for an hour to deal with that section right there and then
Right.
sticking it back in, but it shouldn't remain out. But I don't know that we need to specify that because like I said,
Right.
you're gonna be blocking the walkway, which is already illegal, or blocking the street, which is already illegal.
Right.
So do we need to complicate this?
I don't think, yeah. I think that's kind of-
Frankly, I'm a little excited. We might have a consensus.
Yeah.
So.
I
uh,
agree.
get more.
I think the 8 days and then just add all enclosed trailers.
All right. All right. Before we,
Chief, before you run out, I got a quick question for you. You said we can't camp at our house, so I can't camp in my backyard? Because I want to start breaking my grandchildren in, but I don't know if I necessarily want to have them out into the boonies for that.
I think it's more designed for campers or
Living.
parks. And I think that if you have a tent in your backyard with grandkids, you need to okay.
This is more, my family lost their job, lost their home.
And they're plugged into my house.
Park the
Camper in
camper in my-
backyard.
Yeah.
Okay. Scared me there for a minute.
Cousin Eddie.
see that ticket because you were
Get it?
out back with the grandkids.
That's my 7-year-old granddaughter's ready to go now.
All right. So item number 2 is the land sale discussion. I may run into my office real quick and grab a drawing that was brought up. So,
Yeah, these over there.
yeah, if you want to, that'd be great.
You're talking about the latest class.
Yeah.
they left.
So, there's been a little bit of a snafu with the contract coming up for that estate sale down there. I was really pushing back on some language in the contract that says the town gets to review your final plans, i.e. when they met with us, they were still working out groundwater, drainage, things like that. And, in the contract, it stated that, well, depending on the engineering, the buyer could back out after this engineering is reviewed. And I was looking for something similar to that for the town because right now it's very up in the air. I can tell you, and one of the reasons I really pushed on this was that groundwater drainage. When we originally talked with the buyer, the desire was, of course, we've got that extra piece of land to the north. However, to try to push all that water over towards the existing retaining pond, which is a little bit east. When they started getting into the engineering, the elevations of the land and things like that made that extremely difficult. So then the idea changed to the plat shows they kind of narrowed it down. They didn't need as much water, but it shows that land up to the north, half of that turning into a grassy field, half of that turning into a small pond. Where basically they had, so this is the drawing I'm kind of passing around, the latest one they came up with, which basically would level this whole area, turn it into a grassy field, and then there's a depression here where that extra drainage and water would go. However, the groundwater studies show that the elevation of this area would basically be holding about 12 inches of water all the time. So that concerned me a little bit when we got into there. Is like, all right, well, already this changes because I had envisioned there may be water in high water times, but then it would drain off and then that would be usable area.
Grassy
This-
green area, right? Is what we
Right,
talked about.
Correct. If you, This plan here would not be. This would basically be, anybody that's looked on the backside, the north side of Camp Davis,
Mhm.
there's a depression down there. It's tree, willows,
Right.
unwalkable. This would fill in the same type of area. So,
You know what you did, 'cause it never used to be like that. That used to be where we drove our four-wheelers and dirt bikes and all that.
well, I think it's the addition of all, because the houses weren't back here then.
Right.
Because I used to do the same and there was no houses, so no water was running off. So now as we add the houses, the streets, you're adding runoff. So one of the things, the seller wasn't as comfortable with adding a town comes out clause, because if they're gonna stick all the money into this engineering, they wanted some assurances that the town was gonna proceed with the sale. So what I asked them to do is go back to the engineering and come up with some more concrete ideas, do a little bit more of the engineering, and say, all right, this is really what it's gonna look like. Because
If it's gonna have at least 12 inches of water or more in it at all times, it needs to be fenced in. Or something to the effect where,
well, do we fence in the river?
well, no, I know that's what I'm saying, but
There's a
that's,
pond on the other side of the street too, on town property.
but that's gonna bring more mosquitoes and stuff, isn't it? Or problem
Yeah.
areas?
Knife River and there's so many places there. I don't know if you can add more mosquitoes in with
Oh,
more
good,
water.
good, good.
I think
Yes.
we got all the mosquitoes in the whole state of Wyoming.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
so those things, I did think about those things, but they really didn't play as big of a role in my mind. My thought was more finished, if we do need to do something like this, would the town want it? All right, well, maybe it's a smaller, little deeper one where you got landscape grass and benches around where you can watch the ducks, and maybe it could even be a little kid's fishing pond.
Yeah.
But, well, that's what I mean,
12 inches.
not this, but if you were to dig a
Well,
deeper
if
one.
they
so
were
a deeper
Right,
one
so
for all
then
the
it's
water to go
narrow,
there.
so it's not as big of
Okay.
an idea.
Okay.
Regardless,
Because that would be an eyesore if it was
Correct.
just like that.
and that's why I throw it back at them, is give us some options, some ideas you can present to the council. Because already from what we originally discussed to where we are today is not what I had envisioned or what I thought was presented. So the buyer is going back to WLC to redo some engineering, and I think they were going to provide 2 or 3 options of what they thought this could look like, and then present it back to the town before we go back to the contract. Because I just
If
wasn't
it was deeper and it, put benches around there, man,
Yeah, that'd
more
be-
people would want to
exactly.
those houses right there anyway.
Right.
And you beautify up the.
Yeah, you could have a little path going around there. It could be something that adds to the park and not takes away. And that was my concern. If we just take, this is actually 3 acres. If you take this, you're just taking away that 3 acres. It's unusable. It's not extremely pretty in my mind. Some
Right.
people do like
Right.
wetlands, so I can't say that it's not. But at any rate, I felt that we need to present the town and council more concrete ideas and plans rather than the what ifs is where we're at today.
And they're okay with that right now?
Yeah, that's,
Are they okay, or what have they said about adding that we can change our mind at any given time, like they have the option to do? Have
they do not like that. That's one of the reasons why they agreed to go back and put more money into engineering and design ahead of time.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I want to make sure I clarified.
Right. They don't want to stick, $80,000 in engineering and then the town say, we don't like it, we back out.
Okay.
So that's why they're okay to put some more money in up front and get some better designs rather than the rough stuff. So they can say, all right, here's some options where we feel we can fit into the engineering to sell to the town, to give the town some more assurances. This is what it's going to look like. And then still give them an assurance that they're going to get a sale on that.
Well, the only question is that what if something changes down the road? I know they're going to give us 2 or 3 different options. What's to say they won't stick with that?
I would assume that,
I think it would be in the same agreement.
yeah, we'd have to put that into the
Okay,
contract.
that's what I was asking. I want to
Hey,
make sure that would be
It needs to be reasonably within this presentation.
of the presentation that we approved.
But that's why they're going to go back to the engineering so that they're more comfortable, that, hey, we can accomplish this. Because
Okay.
where they were at right now is already, at first it started that this was just going to be
Greenery.
greenery and heavy water times could be filling up with water to, hey, well, I'm sure you guys have seen down there, they've been drilling wells, not wells, but little pipes in,
Pipes in
measuring
there.
the water.
Right.
And those results is what's come back with this. So it's changed a little bit. So one of the reasons that my thought was is, all right, well, go back and do a little more due diligence, get a better idea of how this is going to look
They
before
have a
we.
time frame on kind of when they were thinking that their engineers are gonna be able to.
Present that
They
to
they want to
us.
move quickly, so
Okay.
they're pushing on it. I haven't talked to them here in the last week or so to see where they're at with that, but their desire is to move quickly. So I think we're going to see something relatively soon, and I expect them to come and give us a presentation of these things before we go through the contract.
I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah, they're gonna have multiple different options. Yeah. no.
Yep. So-
Sorry about the R1, R2.
Oh, yes, and so also, if everybody remembers, when they first presented this to us, there was a stipulation they were going to have to change it to R2.
But would
because-
not use R2.
Yeah, some of the lot sizes
Right.
were down below 7,000.
Mhm.
So this newest design, they were able to squeeze all the lots in at 7,000. So we expressed concern over the language of being able to change it to R2, which they still said, well, unknowns, what if something happens and we need to squeeze a few lots down smaller, to which my thought was, all right, well, we don't have to exclude the R2, but we do have to say, all right, single dwelling homes. So
Yes.
that way we can exclude the townhomes and things like that. in there.
Yes, which is what we wanted.
So if they feel that there's still a possibility of meeting R2, then we can add language in specifying it has to be single family.
Single
dwellings.
family home. I agree with that.
So that's kind of just, I wanted to give everybody an update of where this has progressed to. So still not at the end, but it's moving along. So many things the way they go. All right. The last item I have on the agenda tonight is budget discussion. So I wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up here. So we're getting ready to go into the budget session, and we've got some timelines up against us here. So we've really got to have our meetings done by the end of the month because we have some constraints on staff that need to get the things finalized, and then we need to get to readings. I'm hoping to make everybody's life much easier this year than it's been in recent past. So I've met with all the department heads. We've gone over budgets. I've asked all the department heads to really provide a status quo budget from last year to this year. I am eager to tell everybody that all staff actually came in less than last year's. So we've already met with the insurance companies, and we know we're going to see a substantial increase in our insurance costs this year. So that has actually been factored into each of the proposed budgets. And a couple of the budgets, the police and fire budgets, are just a little bit over what they were last year. But that number doesn't constitute the amount of money that we've seen increases in health insurance and Wyoming State retirement. So when you take out the factor of those increases, their budgets actually did go down from last year. So last year, we did have a few things that we had to push out because of declining revenue anticipations. So those were all pushed into this year's budget, which I'd like to propose to council that we take a little bit of our revenue over expenditures that we've seen this year and purchase those items that were pushed off from last year and are being put into next year's budget, because those items constitute the difference between us creating a balanced budget next year for this year.
So you're saying go ahead and they go ahead and purchase them now?
Yeah, so
We had
basically,
before. Okay.
let me break it down for you here. So what we've got is the fire department has a few items on here: SBC bottles, CBA bottles, helmets, tires, wildland pants, bunkers, some stuff that we basically had to cut down on last year in order to slim the budget. That they're pushing forward for the next year's budget. And then we've got the chief's evidence software he asked for last year that we pushed off the budget because we couldn't hit the mark. And then also the lease payment on the 4 Chargers is about up. And the chief had proposed that during next year's budget, we would be completing those leases and then continuing our rotation, which was 2 new vehicles towards the end of the budget.
They're set to be paid off.
Right.
We're just talking about moving out.
So those are the paying off the 4 Chargers is the thing that wasn't in this next year budget and get pushed off. However, when we all met, we came up with next year's budget of $4,008,000, which basically puts us just under anticipated revenues. So right now, anticipated revenues are 4 million. Sorry, I am backwards. Sorry, 4,008,000 is anticipated revenues. The proposed budget is 4,067,000. So that puts us 59,000 over for the currently proposed budget. If 59,000. So if we were to take these items that were moved over from last year that were being proposed in next year's budget and pay them off, that would actually be $68,000, which would leave us roughly $10,000 under anticipated revenues. I can tell you this is no small feat. Joe's got a little more history than me, but 2 years ago when I got here, the proposed budget was $1.4 million over anticipated revenues. We got that down to $480,000 was our proposed budget. $480,000 over anticipated revenues. Last year, our proposed budget was $1 million over anticipated revenues. And through council session, we got that down to 98,000. I believe. So this year, if council would approve these one-time expenditures, we would actually come in with a proposed budget to council 10,000 under anticipated revenues, which Janelle's going to find the history for me. Hasn't happened in an extremely long time. So I'm extremely excited about this. I know staff's worked very hard to really slim their budgets to be able to come in to do this. So I'm excited to present that to everybody. So I am going to ask if we could make those one-time purchases for $68,000. That'll give us this opportunity to have a balanced budget. To set everybody's mind at ease about that $68,000. Currently, year to date, if you don't count one-time monies, our anticipated our revenue over expenditure right now is sitting at $154,000. So our sales, that's basically primarily coming from sales tax that didn't decline as far as we thought, and some additional revenue from the mutual betting that came in a little better than we anticipated. So we are currently $154,000 over expenses right now. So my proposal would be to take some of that extra, that savings we've got, to pay for the $68,000, and then we can present a balanced budget to council.
Yeah, I know I would be good with that, because I know towards the end of the budget session, season, it's, you have a little extra. I mean, it's like, might as well get that stuff so it doesn't go on the next budget.
Yep. Well, and we are so close. I mean, I cannot, normally we're sitting here for 8-9 hours, 3 nights a week. I mean, really just looking for, do you need 6 shovels? Can we knock some off? So, I think that this is going to.
Do you need those under 10,000 rounds of ammo?
Don't ask Chief that, because that's always a yes. But
I need that 10,000 ammo.
But I think if we can do this really, everybody will be able to see how much effort everybody put into this year's budget, and really what a good job they did on watching their dollars and staying real close. And I think it's going to make, life easy. We'll go through with each of the department heads. They'll go through their budget, kind of explaining to everybody what each of these line items are. But we're not going to have that weight on our shoulders to really look for cutting all those pennies. I mean, the last 2 years, we've cut $1 million off the proposed budget. This year, if we cut nothing, we're balanced. So I think it's a very exciting thing. If everybody is amenable to it, we'll go ahead and make this proposal at the next council meeting for everybody.
Absolutely.
I'm fine with that.
Good to me.
Any other thoughts on that?
No, we appreciate all everybody's hard work.
Absolutely.
I tell you that.
So
I know they had- it took a lot.
They're all working, not fighting other people.
I do have one other budget-related item I would like to bring up to everybody. I'm sure everybody's heard me preach about taking our one-time money out of our budget and really separating that so that we're not becoming so dependent upon it. We're kind of put steps in motion in order to get us there. This year, we weren't really able to separate the one-time money from the general budget because we're just so entrenched. So to give you an idea here, I apologize, I didn't do the math ahead of time, but we've got a $4 million budget. Our 5-cent sales tax alone was $877,000 of that. So if we were to lose our 5-cent sales tax, that constitutes almost 30% of our annual budget. A really big hit that we would take as a town, and really we'd have to look at cutting personnel mid-year because everybody knows, the election's in November. So we do have a little bit of one-time money that we received in this year. We've got the COVID reimbursement funds. We had some impact funds. I'd like to propose to council that we take that money and set it aside for basically our sales tax, our one-time expenditures that we've got right now, so that that's all built into this budget. But if we set that money aside and we do lose it for some reason, or we see a decline in sales tax, something that's really going to hit the town, we've basically created a bit of an insulation for the town. Right. Yeah. So that money is sitting out there because that's our unknown. The majority of the town's revenues are very predictable, but it's the sales tax, the 5th cent, which is up to the voters to approve every 4 years, that it really can fluctuate.
And
So-
we saw in the survey, that's like 50-50 right now.
So I think, if we've got the opportunity to do it, I'd like to propose that we just create that little bit of insulation over there. I've talked to Lexi about how we can perform that. So that's one of the things that I think will help us just kind of insulate us from in case something happens in the future.
Lexi, I know she probably knows way more than I do about this, but it's something that we don't have to use in a certain amount of time.
No.
To roll it over.
Yep, we can actually, so that's the I don't know to say the beauty of it, but one of the things, so we're basically pre-funding our sales tax this year, and we're spending off of the money we've currently got, and it's refilling with our sales tax as it comes in month to month. So basically, we can take next year when we're doing our budget, we know what the anticipated sales tax is going to be for next year, so we create our budget off of that. We're just insulating ourselves so that if we have a big economic downturn and we don't get the sales tax in, or say we don't have the 5th cent reinstated by the voters, that we don't have to immediately go into cut mode.
Cutting
This
people
money will
jobs.
get us to the end of the budget cycle so that we can properly budget for it in the next cycle and plan for it and not have to knee-jerk reaction midstream. So, and that money is just going to roll from year to year. As long as everything stays hunky-dory, we keep getting that money in, that money will just continue to roll over and roll over. And we
This
won't have to
past
dip
year.
into it.
Yeah, this past year's proved that how fast that can happen though.
Right. And that's why I think the town's in the town's best interest to insulate us from those types of events as much as we can.
We've been fortunate that we've had the wind turbine, the wind farm projects,
Mhm.
money,
Mhm.
and the CARES money.
Yes.
The one-time money has really helped us a lot. However, we can't make an annual budget on one-time income. That's not good for the town, the employees, or anybody, because that's not reoccurring. You know, it's just like we all did. You know, I didn't go out and buy myself a new truck because I got a stimulus check, because I know they're not going to keep coming. So, well,
Every truck disappeared along Yellowstone.
I'm just going to propose that we do a little bit of insulation,
I like
and
that,
then we
'cause I
don't.
My biggest fear is cutting halfway into the budget cycle, and I don't want to see that myself personally.
Right. And I think it's unfair to our employees
It is.
and everybody, because when I met with all the department heads, just trying to kind of separate and pull out these capital expenditures, it was almost impossible. We are so entrenched in our general budget with that one-time money that I think I got a total of $75,000 that we could pull out as one-time expenses out of the full 877 we were looking for. So that really didn't get us where we needed to be. So my thought process shifted to something like this that still gives us some of that insulation that we need in order to make sure that we're just not cutting to the bone midstream, is my thought.
I appreciate it.
The other thing we looked at was moving more expenses realistically over to enterprise.
Yeah, so you will see that's a good point. You will see when we do get into the budget cycle. So some of the general funds have gone down. So basically what we had traditionally was a lot of the general fund accounts were taking on an unfair burden of some of the expenses. So what we did is we really dug deep into spreading that out and sharing it. So i.e. Our email accounts, our IT work, that was 100% funded from the general government. The enterprise funds weren't paying any portion of that. So we worked on figuring out, all right, well, what portion of that truly is work done for those enterprise funds, so that we could remove and move that over. And we also had some salaries and some equipment that was the same way. That was it was top heavy on the general fund side and not so much on the enterprise fund. So we've balanced those. So you will see some general fund budgets that actually went down. But in contrast, you're going to see a few of the enterprise fund budgets that actually went up because they're incurring some of those costs that were shared. So, and we'll kind of go into that when we get into the budget session. But it is a good thing to forewarn you that you're going to see that. It had a big impact. I know the general government fund actually, by sharing these costs, went down, I want to say $50,000 by distributing some of these costs. So
That's a good bit, just in that little
Yeah.
section.
But and it's not a cost savings to the town. It's just shifting that money around. However, it wasn't fair that the general government budget was taking on 100% of that burden,
Right.
because there are services that are shared throughout the entire town, so they should be distributed appropriately. So that's we spend a lot of time
That'll
sharing
make-
those burdens.
That'll make it easier during audit season too.
So, all right, that I
Do
think
you have-
covers.
I'm sorry.
Yep, I just was say I think that covers most of my budget updates.
Do you have any dates or about dates that we should be meeting up?
Yes.
Yes,
So
because I have-
right now, so we will have to have our meetings next week. I honestly think that, so in years past, we've done Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from like 6 o'clock till 2 o'clock one night. I don't anticipate we're going to have that much struggle this year because the budget is so well refined already. But I want to give at least a good night, if not two. So does anybody have thoughts on what days would be better?
Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday?
I'm good with that.
Just on the, just throwing out some days.
Wednesday, Thursday's okay with me. I was supposed to have wildland fire training tonight up in Midwest.
Uh-oh.
Kathy, Mike, those,
I'm good with any day.
I'm good with the,
convenient time.
Okay.
So would that be the 20,
Okay. So 28th and 29th.
yes.
So is 6:15 good with you, Candace? And we'll get pizza for Wednesday night? Because I mean, if we hunker down, we could probably get through this Wednesday night.
I was gonna say, yeah,
I do have capability to meet earlier in the event that we need to meet earlier. I can
6
just
o'clock is
move
about
my
the
last person up.
6 o'clock for
yeah,
you.
6 o'clock's probably about the earliest I can get here.
Okay.
About you, Joe.
Without rushing too much.
That's fine. I don't do nothing.
So we want to shoot for 6 o'clock on the 28th and
Yes.
then continue on the 29th if necessary.
Okay.
All right. I think, Janelle, if we wanted to get all the department heads here on the 28th, we'll see what we can do to push it through. And I'll get with Janelle and Lexi. We do have a few minor alterations to those numbers I gave you tonight that came in here a little late. I didn't want to throw them at you right now because I don't massage them, but there'll be nothing but a good thing. So,
Okay.
we do have a last minute cost increase. I will tell everybody that wasn't anticipated. So over the last year, we have lost a few employees that have drawn on unemployment. So we have seen an increase in our unemployment premiums that was unanticipated. So although we're saving a little bit extra money tonight, we're going to add a little bit of money back on for some of those costs. But we will get that all worked out so that we have solid numbers to present to council next week. All
I'm
right.
glad I asked now.
Yes, I appreciate it because I would have walked right out not thinking about it, and I didn't realize how
Would it hit you
close we
Saturday
are.
night or
That's what I was
something?
thinking, you know, like at the end of the month, I was like, well, it's already the 19th, so it's like, it's either this week or next week, I guess.
some things just slip right by me. So
We have a lot on your plate.
That works.
more and more all the time. But all right, I think, anybody have anything else? All right, well,
No.
if there's no further discussion, we'll adjourn for tonight. Thanks, everybody.
Anybody here? A steakhouse, down there off of the frontage road,
And where?
the fort.
I went